Everybody knows that there are 4 zones in Hytale: the Emerald Wilds, the Howling Sands, the Whisperfrost Frontiers, and the Devastated Lands. But what if I told you that Hytale actually has 2 more secret zones as well as different planets? Hey guys, my name is Shazer, and before the video starts, according to YouTube statistics, 0.1% of people who watch my videos are subscribed. We're soaring quickly towards 5K right now, so please touch that silly little subscribe button so we can bump that percentage up to 0.2%. Also, if you're buying Hytale or upgrading editions, please use code Shazer. It really helps me out. If you've been a part of the Hytale community since the beginning like I have, you might have known about this image. Basically, since the beginning of Hytale and throughout the years of Riot's acquisition, the team released several iterations of concept art. This includes early art of some characters like Tessa and Cryos, art of the factions, art of Gaia, and of course, early concepts of the zones. Now I want to remind you guys that this video is based around if Hytale ends up going through with these concepts. After all, they are concepts. There is a possibility that they could have been scrapped because it's been several years. Take what I say with a grain of salt. However, I do believe we will end up seeing some of these things in-game in the future, given the hints and clues that are currently in the game. This image right here is one of my favorite concept arts, not only because of how cool it looks, but also because it gives us a lot of hints. Let's start by looking at this concept art that displays all of Hytale's elements: wind, fire, earth, water, lightning, and void. For the most part, these elements match the essences that we currently have in the game. We do not have essence of wind or earth, but you could argue that the essence of life has replaced the essence of earth. Considering that each essence is found in a different zone, it's fair to assume that each zone is based around one specific element. Zone 1 being earth or life, Zone 2 being wind, Zone 3 being ice, and Zone 4 being fire. This leaves us with 3 essences that are not used for a zone, yet. If we look at the wiki, which has what we know about the zone concepts, we can see that Zone 5 was referred to as the Skylands as a placeholder. Based off this name, the fact that in the concept of the zones we can see lightning inside the clouds blocking Zone 5, it's pretty much guaranteed that Zone 5 is the lightning zone. Let's go, Chaser Zone! Now this isn't the only information we have on Zone 5. In fact, out of the 2 zones, we probably know most about this one. So first, I'll show you everything we know, and then we'll theorize about what Zone 5 could actually be like. Okay, so here I am in-game in a creative world, and if you go to your inventory, go to prefab list, and then search Zone 5, you can see that we actually get a few options. Now, unfortunately, they are just all trees, but they're still worth looking at. Okay, so what I'm about to show you is the large version of every single Zone 5 tree that's currently in the game. Okay, so this one's called the Zone 5 yellow tree. As you can see, it's absolutely massive. The only tree in the game that currently rivals its size is probably the ones in the taiga. But yeah, I mean, it's absolutely huge. It's got a really nice yellow color to it. Moving on, we have the oak tree. It's pretty standard. It's just a really big oak tree. This one is probably the weirdest out of all of them. It's called the green tree. It's not a very creative name. This tree just looks weird. I mean, the bark is green as well, and they're actually jungle logs for some reason. So that's pretty cool. I'm assuming that every single tree here is going to actually get its own wood type. So I'm just kind of confused as to why this is even a placeholder, unless it actually won't change. Moving forward, we have the aqua tree, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's identical to all the other trees, except it has aqua leaves. And then here we have the blue tree, which is really weird to me because the wood that it's made out of is actually just clay. I really hope that this gets changed because this genuinely doesn't make any sense at all, considering that the rest of the tree has actual wood. And if you're curious, this is one of the small trees, which has these really cool roots dangling down from some of the branches. I actually really like this one. But here they are in all their glory. It's kind of interesting that the tree has every color variant, and the fact that this one's made out of jungle and this one's made out of clay. I guarantee that's just like a placeholder. But yeah, moral of the story is that these trees are huge, which I have a feeling is probably going to give us a little bit of a hint as to what Zone 5 is actually like. Okay, I know what you're thinking. That was lame. It was just trees. But what I'm about to show you next is our biggest dead giveaway for this zone. If you're in game and you type the command /weather set Skylands, you can see that you get a few options here. Now, most of these weather settings don't actually change too much, so I'll spare you the time and I'll show you the 3 coolest ones that change the most. It's actually interesting because if they do end up adding Zone 5 from where they left off, then we actually know 3 of the biomes that would be in Zone 5 based off these weather settings. The first one is called the Rapid Marsh. And it doesn't look too crazy, but you can definitely tell that there's some sort of yellow tint to some of the clouds. Also to note, the clouds seem to be more like puff ball shaped than anything. But more importantly, we've basically confirmed one of the biomes. Now the next two is where it really gets interesting, because next up is the Mystic Forest. And right off the bat, you can see that this doesn't look like any other skybox that we currently have in the game. Every cloud here is in a cluster, and they seem to be complemented by these purple streaks in the sky, almost as if the clouds are emitting some type of magic. This one's super sick, and I think mystic is the perfect word to describe this. This is what it looks like at nighttime, and this is the coolest skybox in the game. I know it's supposed to be like mysticky, but this literally looks like lightning clouds, bro. I'm just gonna be honest. This could be my YouTube banner. This biome is 100% gonna look insane. The final one is the Mushroom Forest, and holy. Right off the bat, the first thing I noticed is these spores that are filling the sky. Really ambient, kind of look like fireflies. But look, the sky is dark, and it's filled with like mushroom streaks. This one is so unique, it's actually probably my favorite. Kind of gives us a little bit of a clue of like the feeling that they're going for this biome. But yeah, the spores and the streaks in the sky, it looks amazing. By the way, this is what it looks like at night, and oh my god, this is so much crazier than I thought. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. I genuinely cannot believe a skybox like this is just like hiding in the files. So finally, with all that being said, this is what Zone 5 could possibly look like in game. Now this is a Sky Island mod made by Bradley, a fellow community member and content creator. Please go check out his stuff, he's so talented. As we can tell, it's just a very overgrown island just floating in the air. Actually, if you go underneath, you can see some really cool stuff. It's very lush under here. I mean, tell me this doesn't look insane. It looks like either there are roots holding up the top half of the island, or it's just some overgrowth happening. There's also a lot of abandoned structures here and what looks like remnants of a huge tree log. Now this mod represents more of what I imagine Zone 5 defaultly looking like. If we were to say that the plains or the forest was the default biome for Zone 1, then this would be the equivalent for Zone 5. I don't know why, I just imagine Zone 5 having a very overgrown jungle area. Up top here, you can see more floating islands and some ruined structures that probably have some loot in it. Some islands are being held up by magic. There's also these two insanely big towers, and both of these structures are the home of skeletons. But I could also see this being a village for a civilization that might live in the sky. I really hope that the Sky Islands looks somewhat similar to this, at least in terms of generation, because that would also mean that the glider would be really useful and fun to traverse this area with. I also made my little interpretation of what I imagine the mushroom biome looking like. I'd like to think that they're just variants of huge mushroom trees that are just towering over everything like some huge jungle. I think the ambience of this biome would be awesome. Alright, now let's move on to Zone 6. There's currently no labeled Zone 6 assets in the game, which likely means they haven't even worked on it at all yet. So we have very little to go off of, but we might be able to make some assumptions. Some people think that Zone 6 will be void themed. At first, it might make the most sense, but given some context clues, I don't actually think that's the case for a few reasons. Looking at this image, we can see that in the Hytale universe, there are different planets that are called Alterverses. One of the Alterverses is called Nexus, which is heavily hinted to be controlled by Varen, which is Hytale's main antagonist. We know that Varen wields powerful void magic, and given how this planet looks, I'd like to assume that this planet represents the void. The fact that the void monsters come from portals that are different colored from the ones we use makes me believe that they're being summoned from a different planet, which is most likely Nexus. Considering that the void is the greater evil of Hytale and probably always will be, it wouldn't make too much sense to me for there to be a void themed zone. By reading the wiki, we can see that Zone 6 placeholder name is called the Poison Lands. And in my opinion, I think the Poison Lands is more likely to be Zone 6 than a void themed zone. Also, if you search poison in the prefab list, you can see a bunch of unused assets. Like, a lot of unused assets. Speaking of unused assets, there actually is Poison Lands weather settings in-game. This is the weather setting poison_test, and you can clearly see that the air is full of poison. All the clouds are green and it completely fills the entire sky. This is what it looks like at nighttime, and it's a lot more of a vibrant green. Now this one is called Poison Lands Purple Twirl, kind of a mouthful, but this one is absolutely gorgeous. It honestly reminds me of the Starry Night painting, and kind of gives me Devil Fruit vibes. If you know ball, you know ball. Now this is what it looks like at night, and this is such a drastic difference. It's entirely a different color, and it looks super sick. It reminds me of the Blood Moon from Terraria. Now this one's called Poison Lands Red, and it's a lot more subtle, but it's very pretty to look at. You have the purple sky with a little bit of red contrails. If you're curious, this is what it looks like at night, and for some reason, ironically, at nighttime, the red is more vibrant than day, which does not make sense to me at all. This one's called Poison Lands Heavy, and this is probably my favorite one of the Poison Lands. The sky is filled with this green smoke, and it's complemented perfectly with these little purple particles that are being emitted. It's funny how the Poison Lands have some of the prettiest skyboxes. Honestly, to me, it's a very confusing zone. This is what it looks like at nighttime. It looks almost the same, but if you turn around and look towards the sun, oh my god, it's so bright. I also just noticed that if you look towards the moon, it's covered in this purple smoke. So towards the sun is green poison and towards the moon is purple. I'm really curious to see if this has any correlation to a certain feature that happens in Zone 6. This is the only time that I've ever seen a skybox act like this before. And like I've mentioned before, it's very strange to me that the sky is more saturated and bright during the nighttime than day. For that reason, I'd be very curious to see if this zone ever actually makes it into the game, how it would look, and if there's some sort of special mechanic going on. If I had to guess, I'd say that it'd be a wasteland similar to Zone 4, but more habitable. Now, unfortunately, this is pretty much all we know about Zone 6, but the hints are there and it definitely exists. Let me know in the comments what you think Zone 6 will be. Oh, and by the way, the zone that goes with the water element is the ocean, which is already in the game, so there's no point in talking about it. Now, as for the planets, we only really know about Orbis. The other planets we don't really know anything about except for Varen's correlation with Nexus. If I was a betting man, I would say that these planets might have their own story tied to them with their own zones, factions, and materials. Maybe once the Cursebreaker arc ends, Orbis is saved, and Varen tries to take over another planet that we have to save. Or the planets are places that we can travel to that allow us to gather new resources, similar to the ancient gateway portals that take us to World Gen 2. Honestly, I have no clue, I'm just spitballing, but I really hope that these planets play a bigger part in the story considering that there's a lot of potential for them. But unfortunately, that's all I have for you today. Hopefully one day we'll get to see the Skylands and Poisonlands in-game, but only time will tell. Let me know in the comments what you might be interested in seeing from me next. I have a few projects in the works, so make sure you subscribe and join my Discord down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, don't get struck by lightning, and have a good night.